Hey now, what's up everybody? My name is Mike Brown, aka Review King MB, and I am here to review yet another Star Trek movie, this time Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which this is a 1989 film that, yes, the last two movies were directed by Leonard Nimoy, but this time William Shatner took the helm as director. He also had a hand in writing part of the story as well. And the plot of this movie is we see the group, the Enterprise. We get a lot of character stuff, bonding moments between Kirk, Spock, and Bones especially. But then they get this mission where the Romulans, the Klingons, a bunch of different people are taken hostage. So they feel like they have to go and save them. But they quickly find out that this was an ambush, this was a trick, this was a plan by this character, Sybok, who has some interesting tie-ins to Spock, and he wants to find paradise. Now, what I think of this movie is I enjoyed most of this movie. I did. And it's interesting because reading online that this movie is one of the lowest reviewed, lowest rated movies on Rotten Tomatoes as far as Star Trek movies go. And I've said before, I don't always hold Rotten Tomatoes up as gospel because I disagree with them a lot, people on there a lot. But this is one of those movies where there's things about it that I like, there's lots of ideas about it that I like, there's lots of scenes and moments that I like, but I think I understand why most people did not like this. Let's talk about William Shatner as Captain Kirk, because I enjoyed him in this film. I like the beginning where he's rock climbing and then he almost dies, falls off, but Spock saves him, and the moment where him, Spock, and Bones are camping out there in the fire, and he tells them how he knew he wasn't going to die because he wasn't alone, because he was with friends, ultimately family. And I like that. I like seeing them get close. I like them trying to teach Spock a song, row, row, row your boat. Maybe some people thought it was cheesy, but I liked it. Good character stuff. We see, like I said, the main villain, question mark. I say villain because Sybok is the half-brother of Spock. And I know when you hear half-brother, and mind you, this is part 5 of the movies, if he's a character that they've never addressed before, that Spock has never brought up, mentioned at all, it's kind of like, okay, where did they pull this out of their ass? This random, crucial member of Spock's family and past and connections to him. But just as far as the standalone story goes, I liked it. I liked that Spock did have this guy connected to his past. I like that he felt conflicted, like when Kirk wanted him to shoot him and kill him, and he's like, I can't kill my brother, I just can't do that. So those moments I liked. And when Sybok first arrived, he was kind of an interesting villain. The moment where they make it seem like there's a mission where people are taken hostage and the crew has to save them, sure, that might have been a little interesting as a ploy to lure them in, I guess, but you ultimately wonder, why did Sybok do all of this? Why? What was the point? Why did he go through all of this just to capture them in this way and then convince them to go along with his plan to find Paradise Planet, or whatever the fuck it was called, find heaven, Eden, whatever you want to call it. He just wanted to bring them along there. You almost wish that maybe we shouldn't have known that it was a trap, so that there could have been an element of surprise there. Who knows? There's something about it that doesn't work, but I guess they wanted to have some action set piece, and we got it there. And the brainwashing, there's moments where Sybok is brainwashing members of the crew, and he easily brainwashes Chekhov and Uhura and Sulu, but when it comes down to try to brainwash Bones, for example, you get some interesting stuff about Bones' past and how guilty he feels about what happened with his father and all of this stuff, and I'm like, wow, this is some interesting stuff when it comes to the Bones character. But when it comes to that, and when he tries to get Spock, it doesn't work. They reject his brainwashing, and that was good, seeing Kirk's closest members of the group stay there, stay true to him, but then that just makes the other members of the crew who easily was brainwashed look like dicks. Really? Speaking of other members of the crew, there's a side plot of Uhura and Scotty dating. What? Very random, but it makes sense, right? You have this group who's been together for years and years. Clearly, they had to have hooked up at some point, whether Uhura took turns on some of these dudes or what. It does make sense. Uhura's looking a little older now. She has gray hair and whatnot. So the scene of her dancing to trick the people out there, it's like, I don't really look at her as a sexual object like I did in the 60s show. So there's that. Let's talk about another side plot. We have this Klingon captain named Kla. And I mentioned before how much I wasn't impressed with Klingons and how they didn't really do much for me. But I will say that this character was interesting. He was just a guy who wanted more rank, more power, more to boost his ego. So he wanted to go out and kill Kirk. I'm sure some Klingons still hold a vendetta against Kirk for what he did with them in the last couple movies. So I was into this. I liked them seeking revenge and sort of going off and being hell-bent on doing it. The way how they tricked them to make it seem like they were Starfleet, but they were just using it to get their coordinates and all that stuff. I'm like, okay, I can't wait to see where this goes. But when you get to the ending and how it's just so kind of lame how this Klingon captain is dealt with, it only further proves my thought of thinking that Klingons are lame. This character just gets bitched out and apologizes to Kirk. We don't even have a battle or a fight or any type of conflict. It's just all of this setup, all of this for really virtually no reason. But let's talk about Paradise Planet, because that's what this is building towards. You have Cybok really convinced, hell-bent on showing that there is a God and that he's real and that we can talk to him. And a lot of the members of the crew are with this. When they get there, when they see God and they're talking to him, that's when I rolled my eyes and thought, okay, this movie just completely jumped off a cliff. This is getting into weird territory here. But then when you found out that this guy wasn't really God and that he was evil and he was pretending to be God, he was this powerful thing that we never really figured out who he was. But I thought, okay, but again, once again, it doesn't really go as far as they should. Maybe the more I'm reviewing this and talking about this, it does seem like there's a lot of bad and dumb plot points and stuff going on here. I guess what really held this movie together for me was the characters, or the main core characters, and some of the backstory scenes we get with them, some of the bonding scenes we get with them, and the performances between Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, and Bones. Like, all of them I connected with in this movie. And I was never bored during the movie, so I guess I'm trying to be optimistic about this and say that it wasn't bad, although I do understand if, especially Star Trek fans, aren't as into The Final Frontier as they should have been. Maybe it was a little bit of a letdown after the voyage home, and I understand that, I do. I didn't hate this movie. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think of The Final Frontier? Do you think the movie sucks? Or do you agree with me and say, well, it's not great, but it's not that bad either? Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. Later!